Hi, my name is Steven San. I'm currently working as LVN while going to school. My current goal is to work my way up to an RN/BSN, and my long-term goal is to obtain a DNP and to become director at a big facility. My goal wasn't always that in the beginning, though. Throughout my life, I have been through many career changes, and there are a lot of obstacles to get to where I currently am at. I never even thought of nursing in the beginning. I looked down at it too. I wanted to become a doctor, not a nurse. When I first graduated from high school, I immediately joined the army. I didn't have enough money to pay for college, and I didn't want to take out any loans. My family was not wealthy. I didn't want to put a lot of burden on my parents either. My parents didn't like the fact that I was joining the army, thinking that their only son would die in a war, or I would come back home missing a limb or two. So I had to compromise. I told them if I can't join the army, I'll join the army reserve instead. So what happened was I joined the Army Reserve instead of becoming active duty. After I finished my training in the Army and officially joined the Reserve, I started my pre-med at the University of Luverne. During my time as undergrad, I had a small intern job at the VA as a microbiologist researcher. I did my research in a small underground lab under the hospital. Being a researcher was not fun or exciting at all. I had to repeat the same motions every day, and every single day was the same. I realized research was not the route I wanted to take. It was boring, it was depressing. I had next to no human contact at all. There was no sex cell signal. I much rather preferred the clinical side where I could interact with people. I later discontinued my internship near the end of my final semester in college. When I graduated with bachelor's in biology in 2019, I ran into some family issues and I couldn't go to med school. A lot of my fellow soldiers heard about my crisis and they recommended me to become a police officer since a lot of them were also part of law enforcement and they thought I was a good fit. So, in the end, I became a police officer and I joined the Los Angeles Police Department. I was hesitant at first, but I really enjoyed my time working as a police officer. Every single day was different. Not a single day was the same. It was not boring and it was very exciting. It was great and all until the George Floyd incident. It started to become extremely stressful and dangerous. At the peak of the riots, we would be working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sometimes we wouldn't even be able to go home. We will often think that sometimes one day we won't be able to see our families at all. It was too stressful and I didn't know what to do. So I had to think of a backup plan just in case if I get injured or not. I couldn't go to medical school anymore because it's been too long and there would be too much information to decay. So during my time in the law enforcement, I had to visit a lot of hospitals where I had to bring victims or a suspect inside. And I realized nurses were not to be looked down upon. During COVID, they were the backbone of the medical field and they were first to respond to everything. When I bring my victims or suspects in, they were the first to respond. Doctors were just sitting back. They didn't really do anything. They didn't look at anything at all. So I developed newfound respect for the nurses. After making sufficient money as law enforcement, and I realized things were getting way too out of hand, I turned in my gun and badge, and I started nursing school. The school I went to was American Career College. It was a very accelerated program that lasted 13 months, and those 13 months, they flew past extremely fast. However, I graduated with a 4.0 GPA and I quickly passed the NCLEX easily. I immediately started working at a sub unit and I loved it. It wasn't as fun and exciting as a police officer, but I didn't have to worry about whether I was going home or not that day. After 6 months of being an LVN, I realized I could do better and I didn't want to stop at just the LVN. So I started applying for West Coast and to become an RN and BSN. But I don't just want to stop at RN either. I want to become a DMP. I want to become a director at a big facility. I want to go higher. I want to be better. Thank you for listening to my career path.